What's going on, guys? I hope everybody had a great holiday. I did myself. If you guys are not from the US, we just had Thanksgiving. And because of the holidays and distractions and everything like that, I didn't want to put any content out there at that time. But I know I'm excited to get back into this. I hope you guys are excited to get some insights from me and consume some content that's hopefully going to help you guys out in your business or your career. So let's get started. Let's get going here. So this actually was a topic that I saw during my Thanksgiving break from kind of my personal Facebook, and it was kind of around some industry, nutritional supplement, CPG industry people talking about a concept or something that is actually talked about very often in kind of consumer products today. And that is around the question, like, is there too many brands in the industry? And then specifically, is there too many nutritional supplement brands in the industry today? So just like off of like gut feel and especially for people that have been in the industry for 10 years or plus, like myself, like there's just a lot more brands. There's a ton of more brands. But does that necessarily mean that there's too many brands? That's kind of the question that I always kind of ask. And regardless if you're looking at this from a science side, a marketing, branding side, whatever, there's a lot of brands that the differentiation is very low on. That's just because there's just a sheer proliferation of brands that are out there now from, maybe barriers of entry being lower. But again, is there too many brands? Or is this just natural increased competition in the market? So if I kind of take a step back, get out of the feel element of this and kind of go into, the MBA definition, what we're talking about here is market saturation. And market saturation is essentially saying when sales of a product or a service has basically reached the point where they've met the market needs of the customer. And basically the term implies that there's really no more growth left in that industry, service, or product. If we kind of unpack this definition a little bit, what you'll see is that we're not at either one of these things that are in the definition. Firstly, it's saying there's no more sales growth, or sales growth is going to be unlikely. And if you guys take a look at any industry reports and any analyst reports, they're saying 6 to 7% growth annually compounded is happening. It's happened over the last 5 years. This is going to continue because there's just a lot of trends that are happening that is going to keep fueling this growth in the industry. And then kind of secondly, the one that I think maybe has a little bit more nuance to it is around, is the customer's need getting met by the brands or services or products that are in the market today? And I think on face value, just with consumers' tastes always changing, especially in the speed of today's market, that just seems like either market saturation is kind of impossible at this point, or there's some things that are happening in the industry that we need to kind of pay attention to that is kind of changing. Brands and products are adapting to that, and they're meeting the needs of these new consumers that are coming into the market. This first kind of nuance or change in the consumer's needs is around their commerce preferences. And this can kind of go in two directions. One, a lot of the sales, especially nutritional supplements, have shifted to digital. This is, I think from the reports that I see, it's somewhere around 13% year over year that digital is kind of growing in the category. I think that at this point, most of us know in the industry that nutritional supplements are a very good category to sell online. So a lot of commerce is going in that direction. Why that's going that is because buyers want to buy online. It's just easier to do. There's just a lot of convenience elements and different reasons why consumers are purchasing products online. But brands are meeting the need by going online to serve them. Now, on the flip side is like physical retail. No, there might be some instances, and I don't believe, I've said this multiple times, I don't believe that retail is dying, but retail's changing the way that it looks. In physical retailers, people buying nutritional supplements no longer need to go to specialty retailers to get that. There's other places for consumers to buy those products. And, be it like mass retailers like Walmart or Target or, all the kind of different food, drug, mass, convenience, club, all those kind of channels, offering like larger build outs for like this healthier for you section of products. Consumers know that they can get, their better for you products, regardless if it's a food beverage product or it's a nutritional supplement. These functional CPG products, they could get them in different areas. They don't need to shop at a GNC or a vitamin shop or a small mom and pop retailer. They don't need to do that if they don't feel like it anymore. And these larger like kind of build outs at these kind of mass retail channels is kind of causing a lot more lifestyle consumers to get into the market. A lot of like fringe lifestyle people that necessarily wouldn't be into like a hardcore niche product, be it like a sports nutrition product. It's creating a lot of different categories within these channels to meet the needs of these new consumers. And that kind of rolls into like segmentation of the market and how nutritional supplement industry is getting very segmented, getting very fragmented. I think I saw recently that, in the last 5 years, while the industry has grown about 6 or 7%, the amount of businesses or brands that have entered the market is about 8%. So there is a little bit higher of brands than there is growth in the industry. And that's why you're seeing some of these legacy retailers struggle a little bit. They're getting some of their market share kind of taken away, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's them not holding on to that market share by meeting the needs of the consumer, and they're not meeting the needs of the consumer because they're not segmenting their business in the right way. Today, millennials, Generation Z, and honestly any generation, they're looking for personalized or segmented products that are geared to them. And because of like the internet and just kind of targeting and being able to provide a lot of different messaging and kind of brand positioning, you need to be speaking directly to consumers that you want to serve. No longer can you kind of give the be everything to everyone type of scenario that has worked, over the last, maybe a couple decades. Today, you need to really figure out, who are those customers that you serve and make sure you're doubling down on the messaging and just kind of the brand positioning that they want to see. That's causing also a lot of fractures and just kind of like fragmentation in the market because, be it a legacy brand or just small digitally native brands that are coming into the market, they want to meet those segmented needs. So they might be, instead of just producing one brand that meets everybody's needs, they're producing 3 brands or 5 brands to meet individual needs. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just natural. If those big portfolio brands wanted to meet those needs or thought the need or thought those kind of small segments of customers were worth it, they would provide products for those customers, but they don't. So other brands kind of jump in and meet those needs for them. And kind of like the third shift that's happening is just kind of around like consumption preferences. And you guys can see that with just a lot of the fastest growing or biggest brands that are out there are tending to offer a lot of functional foods and a lot of functional beverages. And that's because convenience is becoming such a big deal today. And those functional foods and beverages are growing at double the annual rate than the traditional kind of caps, powders, pills. So they're pulling up a lot of the categories that maybe are struggling a little bit. And if you look at even like a specialty retail like a GNC, a lot of their growth is happening in their functional foods and beverages section. A lot of their like traditional like powders, caps, pills, outside of a few kind of categories, are flatlined or just kind of struggling. But a lot of like the functional foods and beverages are growing, extensively. And that's also what you're seeing being positioned in a lot of these mass food, drug, mass convenience retailers, because they know that's where people are going. They're going to quick on-the-go consumption type products for meeting the needs of their kind of new, healthier for you ideal. So there's obviously a lot of things going on in the market that is creating a ton of noise out there, creating what we believe is having too many brands. And I don't think we're at that point yet. I think we still have, if you believe there's way too many brands, there's still a lot more hurt left. Or if you think more positive like myself, I think there's a lot more growth in the industry that's going to happen from some of these things that I just talked about. Let's take a step back. I mean, why is this happening? Why is there so many brands coming into the market? Why, what's going on here? And ultimately comes down to one, it's a growing industry, and in an industry where it's an exciting industry. I think most of us agree that working kind of nutritional supplements know that it's a fun category. I mean, it's a young, hip category. You could take a lot of chances. Your marketing angles can be pretty unique, and because of that, you get a lot of people jumping into it. And it also doesn't help that we have extremely low barriers of entry for distribution. You could just open up your shops in a few clicks. You also have kind of like a low barriers of entry to marketing with social media and everything. Few clicks again, you can look like any of the biggest companies out there. Get yourself a really good camera. Get yourself somebody that understands how to distribute some of that marketing out there, and you look like any of the biggest ones out there. I always laugh because when I'm watching, like Price Plow, or I'm watching Stacked, or one of these other kind of like industry news outlets, you see the consumers jumping in and just kind of talking about brands that I know are well under $1 million a year, but they're talking about them in a way that makes people think that they're huge, and makes people think that they're these big companies that are doing 20, 50, $100 million. And the reality is there's not a lot of brands in our industry that are doing those types of numbers on a consistent basis. So a lot of this kind of like low barriers of entry kind of just help fuel the fire that is going on with just kind of a lack of knowledge, because people are able to look and feel like a brand that's much bigger than them. And then finally, contract manufacturers have now made it so easy for brands to get started on white labeled products, or just having minimums so low that there's just a lot of people getting into the market now. It's kind of, in a way, kind of makes me think of like the gold rush back in the 1800s. People go in search of this golden ticket, and what they kind of find out is it takes a lot more work than what they expected, because the industry, though growing, is very mature in the sense of how people have kind of cornered little pieces of the market. So it's not like you're just opening up shop and then all of a sudden you're a $10 million business. It doesn't usually work that way. Because we have so many brands getting into the market, and a lot of just kind of new or uneducated brand owners in the market, you tend to have a lot of noise in the industry, and you also have a lot of issues with kind of like market economics, and that causes hurt to any brand, regardless of how strong your price integrity is, how strong your brand story, or your brand positioning is. When somebody's offering a pre-workout for $19.99 because they bought too much and they're flooding the market, and that formula is pretty similar to yours, you can't really hold that $35 or $40 price point, because people are pulling down the economics in the market, offering a $19 kind of flash sale because they just bought too much and they don't understand general supply chain strategy. And I know I noted earlier that this kind of was an inspiration from a Facebook friend and industry friend in nutritional supplements. I don't want to make that person feel like I was taking it out of context, because they were kind of making a note of saying there is too many brands, and they're also saying that there's too many brands that are alike. Nobody's sticking out anymore. Just to kind of address that, I think all of us can agree that there's a lack of like differentiation that's happened because of the huge influx of brands. And if you look at this from like a science or an input standpoint, the issue is everybody's picking from the same bucket of ingredients or the same bucket of packaging or whatever. They have to work with the same kind of manufacturers that have the same requirements. So you have lack of differentiation happening on that front. And then if you flip it to the other side, you just have a lack of creativity that's happening on the brand positioning or just the customer experience side of things. And that's just from people believing that it's going to be a lot easier than what it actually is. The brand owners and the brands that understand how highly competitive this is, they are differentiating. And what I do think there's the same amount of creativity, the same amount of innovation, whatever you call innovation, in the industry, but I think it gets washed out because of the sheer number of brands. You tend to get desensitized to different things. You tend to not realize the small little nuances that create kind of big ripple effects if they're kind of executed correctly. But those are kind of real problems from kind of whatever lenses you want to look at from the industry. Just to kind of figure out how do we get past that point of brands differentiating themselves in the market to the point where anybody can tell the difference. And that tends to come down to being able to put the whole package together of an exclusive type of experience that you have when you buy from a brand or you see a brand for the first time. Like, what could you do to make sure you stand out? And it comes down to some inputs, like can you get exclusive or patentable or proprietary type of things from an input standpoint? And that comes down to do you have access to exclusive flavors? This could be something that's like a license, officially licensed thing, or it could be non-licensed, but protected in a way that gives an advantage. In the same sense, like ingredients, are there trademarked or patented ingredients that you can get access to that nobody else in the industry can? And you're able to hold that exclusive for long enough for you to get a lead in this industry. A lot of people just pick from the same bucket of ingredients, and regardless if they throw 3, 4, 5 patented or trademarked ingredients in there, it doesn't matter, because the next brand could just throw 6 or 7 or 8 in there and basically just incrementally devalue your value proposition. And then packaging, people probably think about that the least. You just figure, just put it in a plastic receptacle and we're all good to go. But there could be advantages to offering, patentable or just exclusive packaging that betters the consumer's experience or gives you an advantage in the market that's leverageable. What I see a lot of times happening is gimmick-y type of things or just things that really don't enhance the consumer experience. So it doesn't really equate to like being able to position your product or packaging in a way that's more premium. So it ends up just eating away at your margin. So if you are going to utilize that, make sure you are thinking about it in the framework of, is this going to create value to the consumer, and can I pass that value on to the consumer so I'm not eating all the margin on that? Finally, like around shopping experience, now brands are kind of positioned as direct-to-consumer type of businesses. They are customer-facing businesses. They're no longer a B2B business that most long-standing legacy brands have dealt with for so long. You need to create a good customer experience. You need to make sure that consumers feel valued and feel listened to. The feedback is taken into account. You are enhancing their lives in certain ways, adding value to them. There's just a lot of different things that you need to think about from a direct relationship with consumers that you didn't have to before. And those things separate the true bred people that are going to win and the people that are just going to be entrepreneurs because they think, hey, this is too much of a pain in the butt. I don't want to deal with this. This isn't what I signed up for. And that's just a quick tell of people that are going to either do well or not. I think we'll end this topic here. This is kind of one of those deep dives that I wanted to kind of get into. I hope you guys got some value out of this. If you did, hit the thumbs up button, help me out a little bit, subscribe to this YouTube channel, add me on any of the social networks. If you guys want to share some of my posts, things like that, to help me get this message out a little bit bigger and get this community a little bit stronger, I would much appreciate that. But I want to thank you guys for taking a little bit of time out of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.